Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Tara Cowam, and I'm here today with Heather Wilsey from McKinley, and we are going to be talking about HyperDocs and AnchorDocs. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather, but a few housekeeping things. Anything that you guys want to add to the conversation, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will be moderating that throughout the whole entire session. And we are going to sorry. So Heather, why don't you go ahead and start your presentation.
Okay, sorry, I was hearing some feedback there for a moment. My name's Heather Wilsey. I'm the DIS at McKinley. So I understand that this is secondary. So Tara is here to kind of give me some support in that area. I'm mostly elementary and primary, but I developed this kind of with secondary in mind and how it's going to be best suited for you in your classroom with your secondary students. So yeah, that's the gist of what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and go into my presentation here. I know you can see it. Here we go. Okay, so, oops, there we go. So why use a HyperDoc or an AnchorDoc? Because you've already experienced posting things in your Canvas, your Google Classroom. There are many reasons, but number one, so that assignments are easily accessible to students. I like to call this like the iceberg situation. Okay, so students are looking in what's only in their stream of their Google Classroom, and it's harder to find things as we scroll down. It's harder to find things based on the way the teacher has it organized. Is it all on the announcements page? Is it in the classwork tab? Does it have a folder that's separate for each course, depending on how you set that up? So it basically helps students find it. They're not going to look at their Google Classroom and become overwhelmed or have assignments kind of get lost in the shuffle. Another reason why, collaboration, especially at secondary level. Hopefully there are more than one colleague that you work with that teaches the same course as you. You can share the document. You can both be adding links. You could break it up by subject area. You could break it up by days of the week. And it's easier when we use technology. We can copy and paste. We can reuse things. So I find not reinventing the wheel is much easier reusing things. It's giving structure so the students know what to anticipate each time from the document and what the expectation is going to be once they get used to that format. And HyperDocs use the 5 E's. So it's going to dig a little deeper. Now, we'll talk more about the 5 E's here in just a moment. So what is a HyperDoc? I have a video here that we may watch if we have time, but I want to be able to take any questions you may have. A HyperDoc is a digital document. It could be a Google Doc. It could be a template that you use. The HyperDoc is more structured with these 5 E's that we're going to talk about. So there's a process in it. Students complete all the activities, and you can link in or kind of app smash other things in, such as Kahoot, Flipgrid. Anywhere you want to take students, it's all going to be within this document. Okay, so the 5 E's are really only used in HyperDocs, not the AnchorDocs. So the 5 E's: engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. On the picture there to the side, you can get a better picture of what each one of those is going to look like. But especially, this can be adapted for anything. This is something that you're mostly used to using with maybe science or social studies. But think about this. You're engaging. So you're going to have maybe a little YouTube clip of the skill or strategy for that day. Explore. Maybe you want to have them do a Kahoot and see how they score, a little pre-test of some kind. Explain. You're going to dig a little deeper, have students maybe explain it to their friends. Maybe they're going to create a Flipgrid and tell about what they just learned. Apply also has the Flipgrid link, but there are many different ways you could get to apply. That's the skill that you want to have them master. Share. They can share with their peers. They can collaborate. Google Docs slides makes it easy for group work, even when we're doing the e-learning. And then also to reflect, and there's one that I cut off there on the bottom, and that is extend. So that would be, you know, for your students that have already mastered the skill, they can extend it, they can teach it to someone else, and show what they know. So that's the 5 E's. If you're interested in creating your own HyperDoc, which I would say is a valuable tool, but you don't have to create your own. I'm going to show you HyperDocs.co. You can access most of the templates for free. I don't like reinventing the wheel. I like using what's already there. But if you wanted to create your own, here's a few options. You could use Google Presentation, Google Drawings, Google Maps, Google Sites, Blend Space, Bing Link, and then this bottom one, the HyperDocs, is the HyperDocs.co. Okay, and there's a plethora of resources on there about different templates, different ideas, strategies for each step of those 5 E's there. Okay, so how would you use a HyperDoc? This is kind of where I wanted you guys to jump in and think, how would you use it? Would you do it for the week? Would you set it up as a unit of study? We're talking about, you know, Vikings this week, so everything in there is going to be related to it. Would it be, as far as each individual day, the skill for the course? Share your ideas in the chat. What do you guys think? What are some ways that you could use it? Do you have any questions so far? I'm not seeing any, so Tara, stop me if you see any. Where would you incorporate direct instruction? Okay, so the Explore. Maybe instead of using the YouTube video, you are going to be the Explorer. You're going to give a little teaser. Okay, today we're going to talk about the Vikings. You're going to give a little presentation, read a little story that goes with it. The HyperDoc community on Facebook has said, yes, thank you, Meg, yes. So HyperDocs.co, even if you just do a simple Google search, there are many different HyperDoc templates. Any other ideas of how you would use this? Thank you. Grab and go. So some of them you have to pay for, but a lot of them are free resources. But when you are doing your video, your instruction, you're going to go back to that engage, explore, or even the explain part. Maybe the engagement is that you want to have them just very briefly look at a topic. And they're going to go in and they're going to explore and do some research on their own. Maybe the explaining is you explaining after they've had a chance to explore. So there are many different ways to modify this based on your subject area that you're teaching and what you would like students to get out of it. Okay, good. Google Forms is a good place to create a workbook style lesson. Yes, absolutely. But the HyperDocs are a little bit more than a workbook. I think these are great if you're trying to get some higher order thinking skills and you really kind of want to dig deeper and do more with the technology than just augment and take the place of the tools that you are already using. So any other ideas? Let's talk a little bit about an AnchorDoc. An AnchorDoc is, to me, almost more usable than the HyperDoc because an AnchorDoc could be basically any document you create with links. So the components of the learning cycle have been pulled together in one place. Students don't have to look around your Google Classroom to find them. Unlike the HyperDoc, students use this as a landing page, so the link might take them to another site, to another activity, but in the end, they're going to come back to the Google Classroom and check that they've done each thing on the AnchorDoc. Okay? Again, you can share this with your colleagues. Maybe you're going to fill out Monday, your neighbor's going to fill out Tuesday's activity, and students are getting similar content. Okay, let's make the work easier for ourselves and share the load. Okay, so the AnchorDoc, I think, is going to be more versatile in the way you use it. So how could you create one? We've added at the bottom there a link that you can check out. that will take you to a sample there. You can use slides or docs. Those are going to be the easiest ones for you to start with. So you're going to create your layout. I would recommend using the same HyperDoc or AnchorDoc so that your students get used to it. Because once they've mastered the steps, they're going to be able to put more into their higher thinking there. All right, so you're going to want to take that template, copy and paste it into each day that you're using it or each week that you're using it. Okay, so if you're going to be using shortcuts, it's Command K on your MacBook for you to add that hyperlink in. And then if you're just doing it regular, you're going to go up to insert a link. And then you can type in, when you do add the link in, it's going to ask you for the text and then where you want it to take them. So those could vary. All right. How can this help you support students? What are you guys thinking? What are some ways? Type it in the chat. What do you guys foresee yourself using this for? And Tara, feel free to jump in. I personally used these last year when I was filling in for a third grade classroom, and the students got very comfortable with the fact that they knew what to expect each day and where to find all the links.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things right now is like when we're remote is that we never know exactly where our students, like when they're going to be in and when they're going to be out. We don't know what's going to happen. And so having this kind of all laid out where they can jump in, and if they have to make up work from, a previous week, well, then it's all in one easy place to find it. And they're not kind of jumping around Google Classroom trying to figure out what post was what and what was for, points and what do they have to get done by when. So these are just really simple, clean, organized ways for students to find work.
Right, that whole iceberg effect where they're just looking at the top or they're maybe unable to locate assignments that they're trying to make up. I set up a centralized resource page for my own unit learning plan. Didn't realize I just made an AnchorDoc.
Exactly. We have been making it all along. I think right now, though, when we think about remote learning, it's to do it with a little bit more intention, student-friendly language, colors, icons, make it where they could close their eyes and click to it.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one just because I really wanted to share the resources with you guys. So maybe you want to do a little bit of investigating on your own. Even right now, if you can open up another tab, you can check out the HyperDocs.co. And that's got tons of free resources. Some of them are paid, but you're going to be able to download certain templates. I'm sure as far as the smaller image, if you've probably seen that one before. That's a very popular free template. And then ditchthetextbook.com also has some more resources as far as setting it up. It looks helpful to provide information for something like research. Oh, absolutely. But it doesn't just have to be a research, a science, a social studies. Think of how much deeper you could dig into math if you set things up this way so that students are kind of, just exploring. Maybe you're doing something on integers. Okay, what is an integer? What does the term mean? Where does it come from? Then you're going to have them, engage a little bit. They're going to do some partner work, finding out more about that, where the term comes from. Okay, then you're going to give your lesson and show them what it is. Okay, now that they've learned it, how could they teach it to someone else? How could they share that information? How would they share that with peers? How could they collaborate?
Yeah, or even how do you explain to someone younger? I mean, that's always super hard, I think, for students to kind of wrap their brain around how do I simplify this down, but it's such a good activity and an exercise for them to do something like that, right? So to explain their thought process and what they are consuming and learning.
It's a great tool for you to check for understanding. You're not going to go through the whole lesson, get to the test, and then realize, oh, Johnny doesn't understand anything about this. You're constantly checking in with them and watching their Flipgrid videos, looking at their Kahoot scores. You're linking in all these other activities, which are not only the 4Cs, but it's HOTS, it's higher level thinking. Just definitely where we want to be going with e-learning.
Yeah, and that idea of it's not about the amount of work we're giving them, right? It's the depth that we're taking them to. And I think with something like if we are going to use HyperDocs with that 5E model, you can be providing, like you said, feedback the entire time. So they're not just kind of scrambling at the end to fix what went wrong, but they're working on it bit by bit. And it's taking them deeper, but also, the world is overwhelming right now. So, these are really great ways to, again, simplify how students access that learning so that they're not worried about, how do they even get to the lesson plan, but instead focusing on what the content is and getting into that deeper depth of knowledge that we want them to be at.
And even, I know, so the smaller image that I am referencing here on my slide, is the template that I used with the third graders last spring. And I even, the words that are in white that explore your task, I changed those. I modified those to meet their needs. So they knew, the first box every day is going to be math. There's going to be a video or a task where I'm learning about this skill. And then on the other side, I'm going to apply that skill in some way. I'm going to practice it. And a lot of times you might be able to use things for multiple days. Maybe, maybe your 5Es are for the whole week. Maybe the first 2 days you're just going to explore and explain. And then, Wednesday you're going to get to engaging, digging a little deeper into what does that mean?
And on the flip side, with the AnchorDoc, so with a HyperDoc, students would be spending that whole week with one document, going through all those different processes and steps. On the other side, with the AnchorDoc, if your teaching doesn't necessarily lay out in those 5Es the same way, right? Well, then that student will just be engaging with that AnchorDoc to understand what's expected of them. So I know some teachers make like a calendar, some of them share, kind of like student-friendly lesson plans, but by throwing it all into one document, it's that same idea that those kids are going to one place and all those links are there.
Exactly. All right, Tara, do you mind if I show that video? I think it'll do maybe a better job of explaining it than I am. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, I see we have a comment. My child's teacher used something like this during e-learning this spring, and it made it much easier to navigate. Absolutely, I totally agree. Whether it's on a doc or a slide, it's all in one place. And, even I like the option, like I was saying, renaming the links, because if it's all the text that you're copying and pasting from the bar, sometimes it's just overwhelming. I don't know what it is, but I can change the words when I insert my link. So it says, animal project. Click on that. It's going to take me to the website, but it's easier for us as adults and for kids to find. Okay, so let me go back to the video here. Okay. You guys see? Okay, sorry. Waiting for it to load here. I'm sure every teacher in my building is using the Wi-Fi right now.
Maybe click on YouTube and see if that, like at the bottom, and see if that'll help it.
Tara, any suggestions on what I'm doing wrong here?
Yeah, I think let's just we can click click on where it says YouTube to the left and see if that will do anything. And if not, we can just go walk through kind of the steps that you would take to do those things like changing the links and because I don't, for some reason it's just not wanting to load. Yeah, let's just go ahead and we can try that later. So again, these slides will be shared.
I can't hear you, Tara. Are you asking me something?
So these slides will be shared in Canvas. And so if you need to watch that video, then we'll go ahead and it will be in that presentation. Sorry for the technical delays. Just give us one moment.
Are you still there?
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Heather, can you still hear us?
All right, I went ahead and hit stop sharing because obviously I am just spinning over here. All right, should we open it up for any questions or comments while I am working out that technical difficulty?
Does anyone have any comments that they would like to ask right now? They said they can hear you, so we can hear you. If you want to share your screen, we can skip the video since it's not seeming to load. And why don't we walk them through that AnchorDoc, and then we can take them through a HyperDoc and kind of show them more up close. Let me see if I can. Again, sorry. So I'll try and fix this. I think there's something going on with her end. So let me pull up what I can on my side, and I will walk you through this while we wait for Heather to get back. Are there templates available for AnchorDocs? No, not really. Like if you search for AnchorDocs on the internet, it's going to pull up some things that are not necessarily related to education. So really, when you think about AnchorDocs, and I'm trying to pull up an example right now, it's just you creating a one-stop shop for your students. So let me go ahead and see if I can pull this out for you all. I'm so sorry. Thank you all for your patience. Okay. Okay. So if you guys can see this screen, what I've done here, I know it's a little bit difficult, but what I've done is created my template. And so this is like a nice little fun banner. And what we have is the date, so students know exactly where, when we're working, the day of the week. And that's what I would create. So every time I get on here, I would change my date. And then I would change in these squares what we're doing that day. So like Heather had said, you can make these links say anything that you want them to say. So instead of those big long URLs, when you're creating your hyperlink, you're going to want to rename them. So if I was going to create a hyperlink, I can just pull up any, let's say, URL that I have. And so if I have like a big, let's see, how about we'll do EdTech in the Bend, because why not? We'll do this one. So this one isn't that long of a URL, but you go ahead and you Command C to copy that. And in your text, if you want to add it to or connect it to and link it to a set of words, then you can go ahead up here to the Insert menu and click Link, or you can just do Option K. And so then you would go ahead and you would link that text. But you can also then edit and change the text to be anything that you want it to be. So when you click Apply, then you have all of, or that link or that website going to this hyperlink right here. And you can easily remove it. So what I've done in this lesson plan is I have a video for my direct instruction. I have a link to an article that students would going to read. So they just click on that and it takes them directly to that article to read. We have links to vocab words and images. So you can have all of this stuff and it opens up into a new link for those students. And then you can, go ahead and link it to even Google Classroom. So you could actually take the URL of a Google Classroom assignment and you can throw that into a link instead of having the kids go into Google Classroom, so the homepage, choose your class, right, out of all their classes, go then to classwork, then find the assignment, and then, right, go into it. Instead, you go and open up the Google assignment and grab that URL and you could hyperlink it. So right here where I say, right here, it says attached to this assignment in Google Classroom. What you can do is you can then hyperlink that direct link to the Google Classroom assignment. So I hope that kind of helped. There's a question that says, can you link to Google assignments? So that's exactly what you would want to do, is you can do that through Google Classroom, through grabbing that URL. Or you could even do it with things like Google Forms, anything that you're creating, anything that you would normally share. So my process would be to put this up into in my Google Classroom as one post. So instead of posting 5 times a week, I post once, and that the whole entire week is here on one document. And then I've linked all of the activities back to here. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have some of those things still attached to the post in the Google Classroom assignment, but right now I've just slimmed down my Google Classroom because I know that's part of the problem, right? It gets really overwhelming. So this would work the same way with a HyperDoc. So with a HyperDoc, Lisa Anderson said, you can make a weekly syllabus with the link. Yes, you completely can do that. It's the exact same thing. You with the HyperDocs would be doing the exact same thing by creating that entire learning cycle, whatever it is that you were doing, and then you are going to post that once, and your kids are engaging with that however long that learning cycle takes. Brad had said, can I show the classroom assignment linking process? Of course. So what I can do is get into my Google Classroom. I guess our internet is being very slow today. And I'll go ahead and just choose, let's choose this one. We'll choose this one, my sample assignment. So I'm going to go into that class period, and I'm going to go to my classwork page. So now your students will be following these same steps, right? But the problem is that, you know, that can get kind of lengthy. And so if you have students who maybe aren't as comfortable, then they can, you know, you can directly link it and then avoid kind of this whole process. So let's pretend that this is the assignment that I want to link. So when I click View Assignment, it's going to go to the instructions. When I Command C from the instruction page and I go back to my sample lesson plan, we can just throw it over here, highlight the text. I do the Command K shortcut. I put my Command V there, apply it, and then now when I open this, it takes me directly to that assignment. And then the kids, this is from the teacher side, but then the students would see that they'd be able to click in here and they would be able to then turn in their assignment and directly get to the instructions. So that is basically an AnchorDoc. And looks like Heather unfortunately is not able to get back in. So I'm going to go ahead and I can show you some HyperDocs for the secondary level. So if we go to HyperDocs.co, this site is absolutely amazing. There is everything under the sun, and a lot of people are willing to share. So there's a ton of resources that are free and ready to go based on kind of your content area. If you teach maybe a not as widely taught content area, you will probably end up having to make your own, unfortunately. So what you'll do is you can click on this Find button, and they have templates, samples, and then it says HyperDocs. So if you go to samples, then you can choose based on content area or themes. So we'll go over here to math. And this takes you to a Google Drive. And so in this Google Drive, we have, tons of examples. So there's a high school math, and then there's some of the younger grades, like there's a 6th grade. But if you went into this high school math, then it's all by this woman, and you can grab any of these and use them. So there's a Would You Rather, which is a really fun activity. I saw this one earlier, which I thought was pretty cool. Let me see if I can find it again. Oh, the geometry. So I struggled with geometry as a high school student. So I'm always intrigued by people who are very good at it. So what you can see is it's ready to go. You would just kind of look over this, edit it as you would like to, but this is, if you're talking about the area of rectangles and quadrilaterals and polygons, this is more than a one-day assignment. So your students would be engaging with this document. And what's great about this one is that it's created in a Google Doc and not in a Google Slide. So it kind of shows you how you can link not just to external websites, but you can link within the same document. So right here, when you click on that link, it takes you to that section of the document. And so that's going to be really helpful, because if you are someone that kind of wants to keep everything in one place, then you'll just want to make sure that you are learning some of the tricks of the trade for that. In Google Slides, it's super easy. When you go to put in a hyperlink, there's a drop-down menu, and you can choose slides in this presentation. When you are doing that in a Google Doc, it's a little bit different of a process. I typically will use Google Slides, and I change my page ratio So I set my page up so it's kind of more of an 8.5 by 11, like the size of a normal kind of piece of paper that we use, because for me, it's easier to work in Google Slides. I can create more buttons. I can, like by drawing circles, I can link, you know, in a more simple fashion. So I'm just, I prefer Google Slides when I make HyperDocs, but that doesn't mean you can't use a Google Doc. Someone had asked, where did you make or get graphics like the banner? On the HyperDoc, on the AnchorDoc, if this is the one that you're talking about, I made it in a Google Drawing. And so I just set my rate, like the size of my Google Drawing to be a banner for Google Classroom. So that way the banner on my Google Classroom is the very same as my banner on my secondary sample worksheet. So if I went into my Google Classroom, then the kids would understand, oh, they're in Miss Callum's class and everything looks the same and it's all the same colors. So you can do that very simply, just kind of Google what the size dimensions are, set your drawing up, and then you would download it as a JPEG. So if I went into my sample classroom, then you'll see that now the kiddos know, oh, this looks familiar. Even if they don't know my name, at least they'll know the picture. So that's kind of the idea of the HyperDocs and the AnchorDocs. But again, you know, if we come back over here, there's just hundreds, I mean, probably thousands of different examples that you guys could pull from. Someone had said hero's journey. They saw, and that would be great for English teachers. I know Poetry Month would be an incredible thing to get kids, you know, kind of going through that process of the idea of exploring and applying. And not every HyperDoc fits that lesson frame. Some of them are more of like a choice board, and some of them just take kids through a whole different kind of thinking process where they apply, but it's not necessarily the 5 E's. So I encourage you to please get out there and check it out. You know, if you're a little bit nervous, start with just your AnchorDoc and see kind of where that takes you, and reach out to, you know, your team, reach out to your DIS, you can reach out to us, and let us know what we can do to support you. So with that, I'm going to leave some time for some questions. So if you guys have any, please feel free to put them in the chat. And again, I really appreciate your patience as we work through our technical difficulties. So if there's not any questions, let's see. Oh, thank you, Brad. It says that the Google Classroom banner is 1000 by 250 pixels. Thank you. It's a great thing to remember. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I really do appreciate you guys joining us, and this is not the last that you've heard of HyperDocs or AnchorDocs. Susan Pemberton just said, do we have a survey? No, you do not have a survey to fill out. We will be asking for feedback later. So as of right now, there's nothing else that you need to do. There is about 15 minutes until the next session. So, you know, feel free to take a break, get your eyes off the screen, go breathe some fresh air, and we will see you back here, well, on a different link, but we will see you again at 3 o'clock, and we'll be talking about community building. So again, thank you all so much for your time. Please feel free to reach out, and we just appreciate all that you're doing for students, especially on this very crazy first day of school.